Hello, everyone. How you doing? This is the Concerned Forum, and I'm Robert Gumbs. I'm your host, and today we're going to discuss the Democratic primary, American politics, basically. And today I have a charming young lady, Patrice Pelgriff. She's a volunteer with the Bernie campaign,
Yep.
and she's going to have a chance to basically expound, on how she feels about it, how the campaign, politics. She's going to tell you where she's from, and it should be very interesting. But before we go into that, today I want to start off. I'm getting into the habit now of having, little points of interest. Um, just a few words, and what I want to do is I want to say, as you know, the Republican Party, they're in the midst of their primary, and which is fine. We're all Americans. This is the way we do our politics here. And according to the Republican polls, their leading contenders are Donald Trump, who, as New Yorkers, we know quite well, and this Dr. Ben Carson, a renowned brain surgeon. I knew him, not personally. I knew of him quite well, very well, as a matter of fact, when I was in the NAACP in Baltimore, and the Baltimore, D.C. area. And the reason I'm kind of hesitating is because one of the quirks I find with Dr. Carson is that when he was receiving all the acclaim, accolades, what have you, for being this terrific neurosurgeon, him being at Johns Hopkins, he never really got involved with the community. We had a very high murder rate of young African American men. When I was in the NAACP in Baltimore, I was the secretary for that committee, crime and violence, and we never had any kind of contact from Dr. Carson whatsoever. So I think that's something that I just wanted to mention. Now, another problem that I have is I find that both of these men are deeply flawed as candidates. And I was thinking as I wrote this up that they both seem to think that all of us, all people, that somehow only certain people deserve a seat at humanity's table. Now, I'm quite sure we're all aware of how Mr. Trump began his campaign with his explosion of racial epitaphs, talking about Mexican people, which I find to be very troubling. But when I also look at Dr. Carson, he goes somewhat further. He believes that, for example, women should not have any type of choice in their reproduction, which I find rather strange. And he wants our universities basically to be a place where if you feel the student is saying something that goes against government policy, we should inform. You're supposed to inform on your classmates, which kind of sends a chill through my spine. And, this business about you have to have the right religion to run for public office, especially to run for president of the United States. Now, I think that the good doctor also needs to start looking at the idea that gun control was the reason why Hitler was successful with the Nazis in taking over Germany. I think it was a little bit more than gun control. And, I think that this guy needs to maybe put down the scripture somewhat, and maybe he needs to start reading the Constitution. And finally on this subject, let me say that the people that built this country, we weren't timid people. They came and they carved the nation out of a wilderness. And they built a form of government that at one time the world envied. Now, although that process was done with much brutality and racism, the point still remains that these were not timid people who basically made a constitution that showed that they didn't fear ideas. And perhaps I was born and raised Catholic, but I would dare say that maybe folks in Iowa, and especially Dr. Carson, need to study the Constitution a bit more, and maybe try and read the scriptures with a little bit more, how should I say, balance. But quite frankly, I think that neither one of these two gentlemen, by what we're supposed to believe as Americans, I don't think they make it. And with that bit of business out of the way, let's turn to something more pleasant, and let's talk to our lovely guest here.
Hello.
Okay. Why don't you tell the folks where you're from?
I'm originally from Italy via the UK and Norway.
Oh, that's a nice
Okay,
trip.
so I was brought up in Europe, I feel, actually. So, yes, and it's a really lovely place to be. And I'm here because I was sent over by a Norwegian radio and television station to do a TV show / a radio show here in New York.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's interesting.
And then I learned about what it's really like to live here in the U.S. because I've traveled here before, and when you live in Europe, you look at the U.S. Your marketing department, when it comes to the U.S. politics, it's so good at showing that the U.S. is number one, and you're the best nation here, and the American dream here, and people can actually work their way up, etc. When you actually move here, you find a different.
It's a different story.
Truth. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me ask you. Well, first of all, you mentioned you're coming from Milan in Italy.
Yeah.
And as I told you earlier, I spent a great deal of time in Naples.
Yes.
So I love Naples.
Yes.
Now that you're here, what would you say is the essential difference? Oh, before me ask you this: have you been to Canada yet?
No, I haven't. But I feel, but since I lived in Norway, I feel that Canada is kind of similar in a way because of what they believe in, their single payer system, the healthcare for everyone, and the weather. It's very similar to Norway. So yeah, I feel that I will go and visit one day, but I feel that I kind of understand what the country is about and their people.
Okay. What would you say is the big difference between European, even Canadian politics, as opposed to what you see here in our context?
Okay, it's a very broad question. I would say that, first of all, when you think about politics, you think about government helping people deal with their lives. Not everyday lives, but deal with life in general.
Okay.
And then sometimes you associate politics with corruption. Okay?
Okay.
And sometimes you associate politics with, no, they're actually doing a good job. They're actually taking care of us, depending on where you go. Now, the difference that I find between the countries that I lived in Europe and the US is that there is a real, here in the US, there is a real, I'm in for myself. And there's a lot of, get out of the way. I'm an American and I come first. And also get out of the way. I'm stronger and I will defeat you. It's like the survival of the fittest at its harshest, actually. Whereas in Europe, I feel that there's more camaraderie. So there is an element of that, of the, I'm in it for myself, but there's also the camaraderie where, these people that can't do it for themselves can be helped by certain programs that the governments have. One of them, which is the biggest thing, is the healthcare system, which is, and when we say free, it's not actually free because we are all paying into it. Yeah. So there's a certain percentage that everyone pays from their salary. But I can assure you, and then you know that very well, when I was born, when everyone is born in Europe, in most European countries, all of them, you have healthcare.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay for it. You know, you go to the doctor, you don't have to pay. You go to, you have an operation, you don't have to sign it, you know, write a check. You call an ambulance, same thing. It's all included. Whereas here it's very different. If you don't have insurance, private insurance, well now with Obamacare things are slightly different, but prior to that it was like, there were people that I knew, friends that I knew that had no insurance. So, you know, good luck to them. And most of them had really good health. But what happens when you are in an accident, you know, car accidents, etc. So these are the things that I've noticed the most. And the income inequality over here is, there is such a disparity between the very rich people and even the middle class that is disappearing. Yeah. You know, you can go in one street in New York and you can see like amazing, you know, it's very clean and people are living well. And then I'm thinking mainly of Park Avenue.
Oh yeah.
Park Avenue is amazing up until you get to what is it?
110th Street.
95th or 100
right, that's the borderline in the low 90s, yeah. And it changes.
Yes. So
it's entirely different.
It's, to me, it's heartbreaking. Because I understand that everybody wants to work. Everybody wants to do well. We all want to be happy in life. But some people just are not given the opportunity to get there. And so, yeah.
Well, you know, and this does goes right into the person that you support for the Democratic nomination, Senator Bernie Sanders. I take these issues very, very heavily. Just real quick, let me say that the whole thing about insurance, I know how that is. When I came out of the Navy, my wife contracted a catastrophic disease, something called sarcoid. It's like first cousin of lupus. Okay. And we had to take care of her for 5 years. Very little help. I would say insurance of the lowest quality, and it was a nightmare. And eventually, unfortunately, she passed away. And that's why on the subject of you know, national health care, no, I don't have any problem saying it on camera. It's a very deep and important subject. One of the problems that many people see with the other party is the fact that the only time that they respond on a particular issue is when it affects them personally. You know. Right. For example, now I do know that Senator Sanders had absolutely no qualms whatsoever about the gay marriage movement.
He has supported
from the beginning
for like 30 odd years. So yeah, he's not in 2004 was against it and then changed his mind. Yeah. So yeah, he's been constant for many decades.
Yeah, and I
although you know, we all understand that we can change our minds about certain things, but that's quite.
We can grow. Human beings were supposed to grow.
That's right.
But I noticed it very strange. I think he's a senator or a former senator, Republican senator from Ohio. I might have the name wrong, but for some odd reason, the name Strickland sticks in my head. That might be who I'm referring to. I can't remember. But I do remember the entire situation, who was against any type of amendment for, you know, gay people, what have you, until he found out that his son was gay. And then that changed. And you find I think even the Bushes have friends who came out as, you know, out of the closet as being gay. Yeah. So that's why it's not a big subject with them. And see, maybe if they had friends who were poor or sick and didn't have insurance, maybe it might be a different thing. Maybe
Yeah.
the attitudes might be somewhat different.
I have to say something about this, though.
Go ahead,
I feel that there are certain issues that are thrown at people in order to, they're like smokes and mirror, smokes and mirrors. They're thrown at people in order to distract them from what really is going on.
How do you mean by that?
For example, there's always this talk about well, not now, because gay marriage is, the Supreme Court has ruled for gay marriage, so that's fine. But that's an issue that should be none of anybody's business. It should be allowed, that's it, because gay people are people, that's it. We are people first, we are human first, and then we are gay, lesbians, black, white, etc. Okay, so we are human. That's where we're all the same. The other thing is abortion. Again, it's an issue that should not even come up. It's women should decide what they do with their bodies. That's it. It shouldn't be anybody's business. These are issues that we shouldn't discuss.
A friend of mine told me one time when I was in Europe that basically the whole fight about the abortion issue, it's not America's fault. It's your fault. You're European.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Because what? Because of you're talking about maybe like Catholicism in Italy and or no?
Well,
I don't even.
He was trying to say that because Europe sent all their religious zealots to America.
Right. Okay, but maybe you're talking about. I'm not even sure about this. Maybe in the past century or something. Because
the
right now,
colonial times.
yeah, but I mean, right now in Europe you can have an abortion, a free abortion again, on the healthcare system for everybody.
Let me ask you something. Have you been down south yet?
Yes, I've been to Georgia. I've been to Louisiana.
How did you find it? Tell us.
I mean, I've not discussed these issues with anybody down there, but I found that everyone was amazing and very friendly and fun. But again, I did not bring up these issues.
Right.
So again, I think that we kind of need to remember that we are humans. You're human, I'm human. Never mind that I'm white, never mind that you're black. Never mind that you're a man, I'm a woman. We are human, and that's what we should focus on. Anything else is, in my opinion, a distraction. So, gay marriage, oh, come on. We live in 2015. Why do I care whether you're gay and you want to marry a man? I don't care. It's like, as long as you're a good person, I'm happy. I'm happy for you,
How does, because like I said, you're a Bernie supporter.
Yeah.
What do you feel about, or the Bernie campaign, this whole issue about gun control?
That's I have an interesting take on that because. Okay. I'm not really sure about Bernie's feelings about gun control, because he's mentioned that being a senator from Vermont, and Vermont being a rural state, the situation is different than being living in New York and over there. Now, to be honest with you, I have to do more research into that because I'm not really clear on where he stands. I kind of intuitively trust his stance on that because he comes across as someone very level-headed and someone that cares about people. And I would say that, that would probably reflect on his gun control policies. However, since I'm from Europe, I feel that guns are not really a priority for us.
Tell the people out there what the whole, in Europe, the prevalence of guns.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't even know the rules and the regulations, but I know that you're born and your family says nobody owns guns. So citizens don't own guns. The only people that I know own guns are the police and criminals.
Okay.
The normal people don't even think in those terms because we don't have this fear of, oh, you have to protect yourself. You know, this is fear mongering, and I feel that it's connected to the weapon manufacturers that are so big in this country. I don't even think in those terms. I don't think, oh, I'm going from Italy to the UK, and I'm an 18-year-old girl and I need a gun in my pocket. I don't think like that.
See that.
You know, it's like,
Yeah.
even when I go to Louisiana, I read about it. Before I went to New Orleans, I read about it, and I read that the crime rate was so high. And I remember thinking, wow, it's going to be maybe a bit scary. But I never thought I better pack a gun in my suitcase. You know, I just thought, hey, you know, I'm going, and nothing happened. Obviously, you know, people were amazing. It's just that we don't think in those terms. We just don't. And I'd like to see America in the same way. I'd like you guys not to think in terms of fear. I have to protect myself. It's like it's the same with the fear of the Middle East and how it's a threat to America. You guys are in America. You're not in the Middle East. You actually are very privileged to live in this country. The Middle East, and I've never been there, but what I've read, the pictures and the footage that I've seen from the news, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria right now, it's obviously different from Bahrain. It's different. But we're not living there. And are they really a threat to us? I think there's a lot of fear-mongering.
Well, I have been to the Middle East, you know, being in the military, and there are some aspects of it, of being over there, that I enjoyed. I don't want to get knocked for being, you know, anti-religious, although myself, I was raised Catholic. Now I guess you could say I'm spiritual.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a spiritual person. But I think that, you know, we're talking about the presidential campaign.
Yes.
And I think that that's a very good example, especially what I see happening with the other side. You know, just like I read, you know, you have Dr. Carson. Well, what do you want to do about economic policy and taxes? And he says, well, we'll do like the Bible says. We'll tie 10%, which is madness, because that everybody knows that'll blow a hole in the deficit and the budget and everything. That's why I'm trying to talk very slowly on this particular subject, because I don't want anybody to feel that I'm trying to attack them. I think that one of the problems, I spent a lot of time in Saudi Arabia.
They're very harsh, aren't they?
Yeah, and I saw, you know, the religious police in action. I saw a car full of women with not one of them behind the wheel, you know, because women couldn't drive.
Right.
You know, at first we had big problems with our women in the military, driving Humvees and what have you, because their religious police would see that and they would like freak out. You know, a woman behind the wheel.
Right.
I believe that what you have to do, you have to adapt your beliefs to the century that you live in.
That is very true.
You
Yes.
know, I don't think that, for example, I don't think the Spanish Inquisition was a good idea.
No.
You know.
Especially for women. Yeah.
Yeah, but in parts of the Middle East, that's how day to day, that's how they live. And I think that that's one of the things that has inhibited their progress.
Yeah.
And I feel very bad when I see the opposition party here in America Look, I want you to reach into the history of the nation. I want you to reach into the Constitution. I want you to talk about precedent. When that law was passed in 1910 and it didn't work out so well. That's what I want to hear. Okay? I don't want to, your religious beliefs, your spiritual beliefs, as long as you're not harming anyone. I mean, this is America. That's fine. But what's happened, like for example, in a place like Iowa, where you have so many people responding to a man who can tell them, only thing he can tell them about their economic future is that, well, we'll do like the Bible says and tithe 10%. And I'm sorry, that doesn't get it for an American society, for a Western society going into the 21st century.
No, but I feel, yeah, and I completely agree with you. I feel that Dr. Ben Carson is probably clutching at straws when it comes to politics because he probably doesn't have a good grasp of it. I have no idea why he's decided to run for president. And to bring up the Bible, which is how many millennia is that? I mean, that's a very, very old book.
What was that?
Correct?
A lot of that. The Old Testament, that's the Bronze Age?
Right. Well, yeah, we're talking over 2,000 years, I guess. Right. If not, actually, it's even older than that. And yeah, no, we can't live like that. We are in 2015, and we need to have sensibilities for this day and age.
Speaking about sensibilities, how does Bernie handle the racial issue, as far as you know?
Well, Bernie is a liberal, okay? And again, I think I'd like to bring you back to...
Oh, we're back.
We're human.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are humans first. And then pigmentation of the skin. So that's how he feels that we are all the same. Are you talking in terms of the police brutality situation?
That too, yeah.
Well, he's absolutely against what happened, for example, to Sandra Bland, and he's talked about her, and what happened to all these different people, Freddie Gray and Eric Gardner, all these horrible stories that hit the news last year. I mean, I remember doing some research and coming up with, there were at least 2 instances of police brutality that hit the news last year per month.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure that there were many more, but those are the ones that I remember reading about. The young boy, and unfortunately I don't remember his name, but the young boy who was killed, he was just playing with a toy gun.
Oh, yeah. And what was it? That was Ohio, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean,
yeah.
The man in South Carolina that ran away from a policeman and was shot 8 times in the back. Yeah, I mean, Bernie's his policy will most probably be, or what I heard so far is that he's absolutely against that. He wants to make sure, he believes that the police should work with the community.
Right.
So it's not about, I'm a policeman, you'll do what I say, but it's as if the community has to feel that they can go and talk to the policeman or the policewoman that serves that community. That's, to me, I mean, it's very simple, right? That's the way that it should be. Did you hear about the story that, I'm not sure whether it was publicized much, but I read about Bernie Sanders being in Washington, D.C. and being in this diner and actually being approached by this lady who was eating at the same diner with Sandra Bland's mother. Did you hear about the story?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so she went up to him and she said, are you Senator Bernie Sanders? And he said, yes. And she said, well, I am, her name, and I'm here with Sandra Bland's mother. I understand that you know about Sandra Bland's story. Would you like to meet her mother? And he said, yes. And he met up with her and they talked. And if you haven't heard about it, this is Bernie not using the story for political gain. He said to Sandra Bland's mother, I will make sure that I'll talk about this issue, the event, and I'll say her name. You remember the hashtag? Yes. So he did it. but he did not use it. He did not publicize it. His press officer didn't go, oh, Bernie Sanders met up with. This is how authentic this man is.
Okay, now let me ask you this. Why do you feel more comfortable supporting Bernie Sanders as opposed to supporting Hillary Clinton?
Well, first of all, Hillary Clinton is such a very capable lady. We all know her in Europe. She's a very famous woman. And we are aware that she has done so much even through the Hillary Foundation, the Clinton Foundation,
right.
not the Hillary Clinton. Very capable, very strong, very powerful. And I'm in awe of women like that. I'm really in awe of women like that. But I feel that Bernie Sanders actually talks about issues that touch me, and it feels like home. I feel comfortable when I hear him speak. I am comfortable. I feel that he's authentic. I feel that he really cares. And after doing some research into his career, I noticed that he's been talking about similar issues for so many decades.
Oh yeah, I remember him when I was a young kid, because that's how long he's been at it.
Right.
But how do you feel when the Republican Party, kind of? I know I'm trying to get a little deep here, but I think that's what that's what people need. How do you feel when they use his political what do you call it, title? He's a democratic socialist. How do you feel when they try to use that against him?
When they call him a socialist, as if it's a bad word.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, it's obvious that whoever uses that term is trying to make him look like the person that he's not. There's a lot of people that in this country that associate socialism with communism.
Yeah.
I believe that it's first of all that's very that's wrong, and we all know that communism is, at least in my opinion, communism is the lack of individuality, and it's really not inspiring. I don't think it will be great to live in a country like that. Take, for example, North Korea right now, which is an extreme example, but
yeah.
But I feel that they do it just to diminish and to fear, to make the citizens of the United States of America fear what he's talking about. So it's easy to say you're a socialist, and people have these associations without actually doing some research and actually saying he's not a socialist, he's a democratic socialist, which is already different.
It's a world of difference, yeah.
Yeah. So it's fear-mongering, but ultimately being a democratic socialist means that the government is in charge insofar as social policies are concerned. Okay, so they make sure that you, as a rich person, super wealthy person, and everyone else, you have to be accountable. You have to be responsible for yourself, but also for everyone else. Instead of capitalism, I don't care. I'm going to be rich. So $20 billion. What are you going to do with that money? Really?
Well, I think also, as an American, I think a good example is, you haven't been there, but the state of West Virginia.
Okay.
The state of West Virginia is a capitalist state, okay? Pure capitalist. And if you want to see a bunch of poor, hungry white people, go to West Virginia.
Wow.
Okay? Because the reason it's like that, and you have states in the South that are like that.
Mississippi, right?
Yeah.
It's very poor. Yeah.
Because what they did, they allowed that whole thing of pure capitalism. Well, yeah, you know, what did you say? The sharp elbow, get out of my way. You know, it's about me.
Yeah.
Well, this is my treatment plant.
Yeah.
This is my chemical plant. And that's where the whole thing of democratic socialism comes in. Because without that, basically you say, okay, this is my chemical plant where I'm finishing wood products, and the residue will go into the river.
Right.
And what winds up happening, you poison the entire river. And if I'm not mistaken, probably about, I don't know, 30 or 40% of the people in West Virginia, even now, after that incident that I'm referring to happened, they still have to bottle their water. You know, use bottled water.
Right.
Very difficult to bathe in circumstances like that.
Right.
You know, but that's an example of capitalism with no leash.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Capitalism with a responsible leash
That's right.
becomes Denmark or Norway.
That's right. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. There is a cap. For example, in Norway, people, you know, the government puts a cap on on what CEOs earn. They can't earn billions and billions. There is a cap. You know. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's I mean, if you think about it, once you make your first billion, do you think that you will be twice as happy if you made 2 billions? You know, so 1 billion, you're very happy. Do you think that by making an extra billion, you'll be extra happy? I mean, it's to me, it makes no sense.
Well, see, I know Bernie said that. I forgot when it was, but he was talking, and somebody was trying to say, "Oh yeah, well, you know, they said that you're a socialist or communist," and he said basically nonsense. He said, "What I'm talking about is like what you have in Denmark."
Yeah.
Then Hillary comes along, and she says, "Oh, well, this ain't Denmark."
Yeah, that's
You know?
true. That's what I heard.
And
that
I wish I
in
was
the
in
first
the
debate.
Yeah, I said I wish I was in that crowd, because I would say, well, yeah, you don't have Danish citizens sleeping in the streets, so you're right. This is not Denmark, you know, and that really being part of the underclass.
Yeah.
That really got to me, and I
Yeah.
wish she hadn't have said that, because, like you said, she's a very intelligent woman.
Very.
But I wish she hadn't have said that.
Yeah.
And I think the big problem is that the history, or how people choose to interpret history, and you know, the folks who are against Bernie and the idea of democratic socialism in America will tell you that, well, yeah, our history is different. You know. Now, I've studied history. You know what I think the big problem in America is? And I don't know if you have picked up on it coming from overseas, but our big problem is race. And race in a particular kind of way. Because, I mean, you can find racism all over the world.
Yes, it's so,
okay?
yeah.
One problem is that here in America, unlike Europe, okay, you got racists in Europe. Unfortunately, you got racism in America. However, somebody comes in with a program that will help, you know, working class people. In Europe, they'll say, yeah, this is good. This will help the society, the community, okay? Now, a racist European will say, hey, Middle Easterner, foreigner, or Eastern European person, what the hell you doing in my country?
Right.
And it will be like a personal thing. But that program that's good and working, they'll keep the program.
Yes, yes.
Okay? Here, especially with your working class, especially down south, hey, the program, even though it will help me, I'm going to vote for the guy that's going to try and kill that program, because that program will help those lazy blacks and those lazy Latinos. See? So, and that's just what they're doing. They're cutting their own throat.
Yeah.
because they feel that I might benefit. And see, that is purely American racism. If that's my definition.
Yeah, I understand, and that's kind of short-sighted because when you push people in desperate situations, they will do desperate things. So you do that, and then what happens is that crime might go up. Okay, that's a possibility. Okay, and I'm not just saying black people are the
Right.
But I'm saying anyone that is pushed in a desperate situation will become desperate and act desperately. So that's how I feel it's very short-sighted. It doesn't take too much to just give back into society and see actually people flourish. Even when it comes to, for example, the free community college that Bernie Sanders is thinking about. That's one of his policies. He wants free community colleges. Community colleges tuition free. Now, what that means, in my opinion, and I mean, I personally, I come from, and I'm sure there's people like me out there, there's people, I come from a working class background, okay? So I'm very smart. There's people like that. You're smart, but you come from a family that doesn't have possibilities. So, but you could actually be a good member of society and actually do something with your life and do something for society if you only had the opportunity. So let's take someone who lives, I don't know, in Harlem or the Bronx or Staten Island, whatever. But let's pick someone from the Bronx whose family has absolutely no opportunities. Mom and dad are both working, or maybe it's only dad that's working, or only mom that's working, single parents family. But there is this opportunity to have free community college. There are people that come from these backgrounds who are very smart and naturally smart. And they would have the opportunity to hone their skills, to study, to become the person that they would like to become, and to become really great members of society and do well for themselves. Why not give them that opportunity? That's what I love about Bernie Sanders. He wants to give everyone the opportunity. Now, if you are intelligent, if you're smart and you can do it, it's good to have the opportunity, okay? So if you don't want to do it, you prefer to go and work and do a different type of job, that's fine too.
Now, here goes something that, because we are having a discussion about Bernie, about his policies, about American politics in general. And see, this is one of the dangers that the other side is trying to get away with. Now, he says free community college, all right? Or, free college in general.
Well, no, we're not talking about Harvard. We're talking
No, it's a private college,
community,
state colleges, state colleges, tax-paying, colleges, right, that we support with our taxes. Well, here's a flash for you, especially right here in New York City. College it was free. Okay, a lot of people don't know that. They try to make it seem like, oh well, Bernie's just coming out a planet moonbeam, or something like that, with these wild notions. No, they're not wild. Okay, when I first started going to college the first time, I didn't pay a dime because I had the old GI Bill. See, I was in the service, came out, started going to college. Right, went down south, then decided to go back into the service. Okay, so I've seen both sides, and see, the country I knew, you had free college, and not just because I was a veteran. Okay, Colin Powell. Okay, that's where he went into the military from. Okay, he went to ROTC, officers training. Same school, City University of New York, no tuition, all right? California, they had the same thing. What politician came up with that bright idea? Abraham Lincoln.
There you go.
Okay, the land-grant university system. He started that. So this is nothing new. And one of the things that I find so interesting about Bernie Sanders is that he's not trying to call something foreign, like when Hillary made that statement, well, this ain't Denmark. No, this is America, okay? Wisconsin, Minnesota, that was the land of the working class Republican, okay, who came in with the ideas of government reform. Okay, this was in the last century, 1912. Big Bob LaFollette, okay, big time Republican. I had a guest the other week. I told him the fact that I was raised as a Republican. My dad was a district leader in Harlem.
Right.
Okay, but that was in the early '60s.
Yeah, the Republican Party has changed over the years. Isn't
It has become basically it has become a party for people that don't like the change of America over the last 75 years. Okay, I'm not saying all Republicans are racist. I know better than that. Okay, like I say, I grew up in that party when I was a kid. However, nowadays, if you have a problem with women's rights, okay, if you have a problem with a woman, being pro-choice, if you have a problem with brown immigrants coming into the country, if you have a problem with gay rights, I'm not saying that you have to be, but chances are you're going to the Republican Party.
I understand. It kind of feels like if you are unable to mind your own business, you go into that party. Because really, I mean, if you think about it, gay rights, like it goes back to what I said earlier, right? I don't care whether you love a man or a woman as long as you're a good person.
Right.
Okay, so
right. Now let me ask you something else about Bernie's side of the fence. Let me make sure we don't run out of time because I get interested in. I forget to keep up with the time. I know because I remember you had mentioned earlier. As far as you might not be that up in terms of military policy.
That's right.
Where the United States stands. But generally, your impressions of the Bernie campaign and the way they view America's place in the world, foreign policy, the military, what we're doing with other nations. Could you kind of elaborate somewhat on that?
What I feel that's the main focus for the Bernie Sanders campaign is absolutely internal affairs. So he talks about income inequality a lot. So that is a big topic. And I feel that's personally, I feel that's very smart because if you do take care of your people first, and you kind of let go of the conflicts that the U.S. has been involved in the past 40 years, shall we say, or even longer, then maybe you can start becoming a really strong nation with lots of professional people, lots of people that can go to college and et cetera, et cetera. There can be real leaders in certain and even in all industries. So that's, in my opinion, that's his campaign's focus, from what I understand. He's been asked a few times what he would do outside in the Middle East, etc. And how he usually responds is that he says that let the people in that area, let the Muslims in that area take care of their area. And so whether it's the Saudis or anyone else, so they have an army, okay? So let's let the Saudis, etc., take care of that area, and if they need our support, we'll be there to support them. But let's not make it our main issue to go out there and disrupt the area. Taking out Saddam Hussein, looking back, could have been a disruption. Right.
Well,
because of what's happening now. That's a possibility. ISIS.
Yeah.
People are thinking about, what's going to happen with Assad in Syria. Should we get rid of him? And a lot of people are saying maybe not, because he's keeping some kind of control. He's probably not a peaceful person, but I think it's actually Charlie Rose said that on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert last night. It was at the Halloween special. It's probably best to just leave things as they are, because Assad is currently against ISIS. So that's maybe.
And he also protects Christians. A lot of people don't. That's not spoken of enough here in the United States. Do you find the news coverage, by the way, different than when you're back home or when you're back in Europe? I know I did when I was over there.
Yes, I guess that it is slightly different. Yes, I feel that it's things are really quite biased over here. So, and obviously, I mean, personally, I don't really watch much Fox News, because I feel that it's too extreme. But MSNBC is fairly liberal. Even though even MSNBC has had its moments, I think that they didn't really get on board with the Bernie Sanders campaign until probably like the first Democratic debate. So yeah, but I feel that it's biased, and I feel that it's it's biased in the sense of. These channels are owned by big corporations, and I feel that even at amazing, I love this show called The Hardball with Chris Matthews. I think it's amazing.
Oh yeah, I watched. Yeah, I watched that.
But I noticed that, and he's on board now, and I understand journalists have to keep neutral. But Chris Matthews is very open, and he's very forthright about who he supports, and but I think that even he showed a bit too much of Donald Trump, and I think that's too much, and it's that kind of coverage is driven by advertising. Trump would say some very extreme, outlandish something, whatever he said, and obviously people want to listen to that, because people like the sensationalism of it.
Well, I think it's unfortunately, I think it's a little more than that. Right now the Republicans, for example, they're having a problem because of their base. It's like a civil war between the elites, the ones that run the party, and the base. Yeah. And see, what you've had here in America since the late 70s, and the Republican Party, basically what they did, they created this problem for themselves and now for the rest of us, because they spent most of their time from 1970-something, late 1970-something, telling their base the government is bad. The government wants to take your hard-earned tax money and give it to lazy people, give it to blacks, give it to Latinos.
But I wonder
Native
about that.
Americans.
Why, if government is bad, then why do they want to run for office?
Well, see, that's what that's what people are asking now.
No, it's again, smokes and mirrors. These are issues. These are things that they say to just to make people believe, oh yeah, that's right. Government should be out of my pockets. But actually, then why are Republicans? Why do they want to be the president? Why do they want to get into Congress, etc.?
Good question.
So that's I don't buy that. I don't buy the libertarianism either. No, you need government, because actually, when you don't have government, and this is actually, do you know this guy? I can't remember his name. It will come to me. But he's an economist. He's just won the Nobel Prize. A Scottish
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And he basically did studies on wealth inequality, and he found that the countries where there's the biggest disparity, where there's a lot of poverty, are countries where the government is not present in governing the people. So there's no when there's no contract between you, the government, and me, the citizen, there's poverty. There's a lot of poverty. So that's why government is actually very important, because government allows us to have the police force, healthcare, infrastructure, colleges, etc., etc. So that is why the Republican ideology does not stand.
But why does it work, unfortunately, with so many people in certain sections of this country? Why is that?
Why is that? It's because I
in
feel...
your opinion?
Yeah, in my opinion, it's because I feel that it's... people don't really understand the intricacies. They don't understand... they don't understand how important it is to pay taxes. They don't understand how important it is to even pay 8% of your wages towards single-payer healthcare. They feel that, no, it's like, I'm taking care of myself and that should be enough. Actually, no, it's not enough, because you need government to take care of the big things like, income equality. Income equality is a huge thing. Government needs to be there to say to the likes of Walmart, no, we're not going to give you an 8 billion tax cut again this year, because you're already 144 billion worth. Why do you need an extra? Government needs to be there to say, this is enough. We need to give parts of that to those who need it.
So what you're saying? Well, I just had a flash when you were just talking about, telling American people, even if you're paying 8% for, national health care, and believe it or not, it made me think of something in the New Testament.
Okay.
What Christ said to the Pharisees: render unto Caesar. In other words, give to the government the things that the government's supposed to take care of.
Yeah.
And give to God the things that God's supposed to deal with.
Right.
In other words, here goes your government, okay? Here goes your spirituality. Government's not going to mess with your spirituality, but your spirituality, as long as the government is doing what it's supposed to do, but then, see, that's the problem. Believe it or not, this was a great country after World War II. Oh, don't get me wrong. We had the problem with racism.
We also had Martin Luther King, who was...
Very good.
Yeah, of course. He was he was a great fighter, and unfortunately he was assassinated. And then also you had JFK roughly the same time, right? And unfortunately he was also assassinated. But you also had Lyndon Johnson, who was amazing.
Yeah.
So you had... And even Eisenhower was not such a bad guy.
No, he was not. He was, Eisenhower...
Republican, but...
Yeah, he couldn't fit in today's Republican Party. That was my father's Republican Party.
Right.
I could not fit in this party today.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things I think that Bernie is trying to point out to people. Because I was going to ask you, or make a comment about the fact that the thing that really sets Bernie off, I know this, is, if you walk into the room and just say income inequality, and he freaks out. And that's good.
He's passionate, of course. He's passionate about
because
that.
People need to do that. Because we have become, and again, people might criticize me for saying this, but it's true, we have become a very sad country, in spite of the commercials that you might see on TV, okay? Which, my personal opinion, I think a lot of our commercials, from a psychological aspect, are a bit much, okay? Because this, well, yes, you do, because you had mentioned it when we began about we have an extremely high suicide rate in this country.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, we got you guys in Europe, in Western Europe, beat hands down. I mean, between our regular, civilian population and guys like me, military, okay?
You mean the ex-veteran, the vets? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, vets, yeah.
I'm very aware of that.
Oh, my God. What is it, about about 20 a day, you know.
Yeah, because Bernie, or at least Bernie, I remember someone was saying, it's okay to send the troops out, but you're really pro troops, but when they come back, you don't care. I think that it was Bernie saying something about the Republicans that are so pro-war and pro-sending the troops out, and yet they don't really care about what happens to them after when they get back.
Well, see, what people don't understand, and see, that's another problem. I don't know how Bernie might feel about this. I know he does believe in some kind of national service, but again, they're trying to explain America on a day-to-day basis to someone as yourself. We used to have a draft here, and then unfortunately Vietnam came, and then you had the massive demonstrations, and Nixon. They didn't end the draft. They just said, "Well, here we'll just put it in the shelf for a while." You know, but I'm going to say something. And as soon as I leave the studio this evening, I'll probably get rocks thrown at me. But no movement is perfect.
Yeah.
Civil rights movement was not perfect. The women's movement was not perfect. The anti-war in Vietnam was not perfect. And I think the one mistake that we made was that instead of demanding more scrutiny about the deferments that wealthy people got, we just fought to basically stop the draft. And I think that was a big mistake because, believe it or not, the military, from World War II all the way up to the mid-'80s, the military was an excellent example of democratic socialism.
Right. That's interesting.
Because as you came through, you had a place to go, you had training, you learned that you lived in a country with other people who were different from you.
You had free health care?
Yeah, you definitely had the free health care.
There you go, yeah.
And you had a common unity. One thing I'm going to do next time I write Bernie at the Senate office, I'm going to tell him that one of the things that the Republicans really did to damage this country, I don't know how familiar you are with our Constitution, our preamble, some of our
First Amendment, Second Amendment.
Our what do you call that? Our sayings, okay? Like e pluribus unum. Okay? I used to be an altar boy, but I'd be damned if I can remember most of my Latin. But I think that means e pluribus unum means out of the many comes one. What's really hurt this country, besides climate change, that's another thing.
The whole world,
Yeah, but what they really did to stab us is they took that away. It kind of goes along with what you were saying about, well, you're not here by yourself. You don't live in the country by yourself. And what the Republicans